VOD people, my VTuber is lagging. Why is this the case? This has not been. What? Okay, that's a great start. Hi, VOD people. I hope you're having a good day. You've had food, you've had water, you have everything you need to do. Apparently, I need to restart my VTuber before we get into this. Cause, I know why. I need a task and Steam. Hey, I had Steam up earlier. Steam makes it lag. Let me task end Steam. And then reopen it. And then we will be fine. Maybe. Perhaps. Please. Maybe. Pretty please. Just load. Just load. Literally just load. Please. 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 Why is it slow? It's lagging and I don't know why. Hello, Billy Bob. Hi, Wolfie. Hello. Thank you for the streak. We're back to... Is it because of... Wait, hold on. Do I have... Is it my Distant Horizons? Do I have that turned on? Yes, I do. I have a feeling it was this. Maybe. It was running good before I had Minecraft open. It's usually fine. Oh, and it freaked out. Great. I love that for me. I love that for me. Anyway, hello everybody. Thanks for stopping by. I don't know why. Because I have the normal things open. I don't know why the PNG tuber has decided to just not. You know what we're gonna do? Just so I can confirm it. I'm gonna close Minecraft. Is this the issue? Maybe. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that was the issue. It was Minecraft. It always is. Because of course it is. Anyway, hi guys! My VTuber is lagging because Minecraft exists. How's your day? This week, we're getting started. This is day 1 of 4. We're gonna be streaming pretty much every night. I wish it stopped making me lag. It runs so much better when it just doesn't. Let me turn down the music a little bit. We are starting day 1 of 4. We are going to try to, every single day, get a part of this project done. I want to finish the MegaBase this week, in the next 4 days. Today, we're working on the south entrance. We gotta make the schematic, which is very easy because I have it. I have this copy-pasted. I have a version of the stairs copy-pasted, and we just have to edit it to fit correctly in the area we need. And then we need to make that into a schematic I can use on the server and build that in. I have a feeling from the past working on the stairs, because I hate doing the stairs every time. It's really annoying to excavate and then build it. So I think we're going to try doing both at the same time and see if that's better. Hydrate, yes, I will hydrate. I have a big old thing of tea in front of me. Nummy. Never hydrate. Yeah, oh no. Shouldn't these channel points go towards the parkour stream? It's not sweet tea, but it is sweetened. I'm lucky, my local generic brand, decaf black tea actually is decent, so I got like a 50 pack of those, and I am draining through it. There's only 16 minutes left on it? Left on what? Oh, on the channel point thing? Oh, yes, I can stretch. Hold on. Let me stretch. VTuber, would you like... Thank you. You decided to freak out on me. That's not nice. Stretch one way. Stretch the other. My VTuber really doesn't like that. And reach towards the sky, and then... Thank you. 2.7k cranberries. Fantastic. I don't know why. Cranberries just spell crazy for me, and I love it. Also, that does not look like a 2 on the chat. That looks like an 8. Or my eyes are just funky. Yeah, that just does look like a 2. Anyway. So we have all of that to do, and we're gonna try and do that. Because I am only streaming this progress, that means I have about 8 hours to get everything done. I want to get the south entrance done, I want to get the east entrance done, and then I want to dismantle the current crop farm I have for the carrots and onions, because it doesn't work like it's supposed to. Replace it with a second rice farm, and if I have the time, also make 2 mini semi-automated onion and carrot farms. And then the fourth thing is adding decor, copper piping, all sorts of like steampunkish decor to the MegaBase and making it functional. We have storage delight, so theoretically, I can use the copper piping to hide frames, which can help me transport items from one room to another, and I want to transport all of them into one storage room. So we'll see if we can actually get that done in roughly 8 hours, because I stream about 2 hours typically. We'll see how much we can get done. We're gonna try our best to get a lot of it done. It's gonna be interesting for sure. But we're gonna do our best to get it done. If need be, I might be able to take the time to catch up on it. But we will see. Off camera, that is. Or probably recording. I'll catch up on it. I'll figure it out somehow. But we're gonna see if I can make Minecraft work with me. And if it won't completely lag out my VTuber. Because that would be ideal. Get everything up and going. And we're gonna be rocking with the VTuber for a little bit. I want to test out something. I want to see something. I do enjoy Facecam, but I also really like the VTuber, so we're gonna rock around with him for a little while. And let me get some agua as well. I do not wish to see that drawing again, Mew. What? I won't be able to play today. No worries, Billy Bob. Which drawing? What drawing? I'm surrounded by drawings. I am a drawing. I'm a drawing. Everything behind me is drawings. Do you want to see fished? I have a fished. When your VTuber broke, you had to change it to your drawing VTuber. Oh, the tiny boy. The, hands crossed boy. No. I got a fished. You want to see a fished? Fished. He's a fished. Fished. I love it. I love this thing. You know what? This gets to stay. I'm gonna have it disabled, but I am keeping this in the scene. I'm gonna name it Fished. Fished. There we go. Okay. So seemingly, the VTuber's running fine this time. Let me make sure it's capturing the right Minecraft. I need to put the bigger tape ball in the Discord. Fished. Because it's a fished. It's a fist holding a fished. Fist holding a fish. I stuttered over fished when I was doing a doodle stream. I'm doing hand movements and I don't have the face cam. I stuttered over fist and said fished instead, and then absolutely had to draw this. So there's a little hand holding the fished. How many tape ball? I think it's just one giant tape ball that Billy Bob is slowly working on. Also, game chat, you get to have less of a jail. There you go. Enjoy. You have all of one more chat message, or maybe 2 lines you could show. There we go. We're going to an old copy of the server because it works just fine. There's not much else changed. So we're gonna get the best we can get done. If it would load. And we're gonna see, it's still running okay. I keep Minecraft on a low memory. Distant Horizons is off. So, assumingly, it's fine. Is the same one you thought was a bowling ball. Oh no. So we're back in the problem area, my MegaBase. We have added the east entrance. The north entrance is the original. East entrance is next time. South is what we're going to try and get done today. And so theoretically, if I remember everything correctly, we got to do... When I'm building assets, I have it on the newest version, almost, of Minecraft. And in newer versions of World Edit, when you're doing schematic, if I type it correctly, I don't have... That would be a problem. There we go. Schematic load. It will tell you all the ones you already have. And so you can just tap through which one you need. Old versions don't do that. So, I don't remember what I named this. I'm gonna bet it's something MegaBase Stair NA. Yes, it is. Good. I remember my filing? I guess that's the word. I remember my filing. And then I'm pretty sure it's going to be facing north, so we're going to flash... Or is it facing south? What way do I have it face? You know what? We're going to find out. Paste. -8. It is facing north. Okay. And we're going to just rotate that 180 and then paste -A. And because this is not the correct button, and because Axiom's amazing, we're just gonna right click that and then delete, and then I don't have to worry about it. Oh my god, it needs more. So the south entrance is possibly going to be the largest part of this, because it's the only one, I think, that actually has to go all the way to the top of the mountain. Yeah. How close am I to the surface, though? Oh, almost. It's just a little bit off. Just I'm gonna go out the side of the mountain. That's gonna end up, like, right there. I thought it was gonna end up over there. No, it's ending up right there. I was not even gonna end up... It might. Big giant holes. Ooh. It's just a death trap, honestly. There has been at least half a dozen deaths purely to my staircases. You know what? For good measure, we're just gonna paste right here again. Oh, I didn't do -A. That would be the problem. That would be the problem there. And then click. Oop, there we go. Okay, hold on. I need to consider some things. One, I need to actually line this up correctly. Let's try putting it right here? Or it'd have to be one off because of what I saw, right? Paste -A, try that. Is that okay? I can't tell. Undo. No, that would be fine. That looks like it'd be fine. I just have to change this bottom row, I think. And a little bit more. But we'll fix all that in a moment. I need to just get rid of this, make sure the rest of it worked correctly. Almost. Close enough. Do I still have the original? Yeah, I have the original. Okay, hold on. I have the original... We're still on the world where I made this schematic, so we can actually just literally teleport over here and see this giant mess that apparently I left a little bit of left over. Oop, thank you. And so... Why is, like, half of this gone? Okay, I do not know why that is. Theoretically, I can just go down here and rotate 180 paste -A, although it's not necessarily needed to fix that. Yes. Yes, I can. Perfect. Did I... Is that one off? No, that still seems to be fine. Okay. No, I did double... Did I double? I did double it. Okay, hold on. One block off. So now it shouldn't be doubled up anymore? Yep. And for some reason, there's like 2 extra right here. And down there, apparently, as well. I'm just gonna... Yep. And now, theoretically, we can go take this. I will take the worst block in the game, but the best block for needing to do random assortments of things. Magenta glazed terracotta, of course. And we're gonna copy paste from here. And so I can have the utmost control over this. We're just gonna go only up to here. And then I'm gonna go... I want to find... There's the torch here. And then I want to find the stairs, the middle stair, from it. And we're gonna do a copy. And I don't need to make a schematic of this. We're probably gonna not ever need it again, unless I do, but then we're gonna be using this world again anyway, so I could just copy paste it from that. And very slowly get out. It still has Penguin's head. Get out of here. So that's the center torch. This would be the center stair from the torch. We're gonna do... rotate 180. And then paste -A. Which should make that. Which we can select and delete. And slowly, but surely, get up to the top of this. Tippy top of this. I did that incorrect. Hold on. And then right here do it. And do the same right here. Why did I get caught before? I don't know. Boop. Bop. Okay, it's just because I'm flying. I understand now. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so we're almost here. Is this enough where I should just dig a hole in the ground at this point? Yes. You know, we're gonna grab this and see how this looks. Oh, I still have a lot of room here. So now the question herein lies, how do I want to go about this? I'm thinking, because I could absolutely do another set of columns. Let's try another set of columns first. I wish I didn't do that now, but I can't change that. I'll probably just default to that. It just makes the schematic annoying. It's not actually anything bad. How does this look? Instead. And what room does this give me to work with? Okay, that's actually far more ideal. And it gives me way less to terraform and actually have to do. Okay, yeah. We're doing that. We're going to ignore that this is here. I'm just going to cover this up, and when it comes to schematic time, we're just not going to worry about it. The schematic's going to be mad and tell me the wrong blocks are there compared to the natural world. I don't care. And then from here, I can just kind of start copy-pasting from other things. And I think all we really need to do is terraform a little bit of this. I honestly think I want to terraform this by hand. I'm not going to worry about doing this myself right here, right now. When we get into the world, I'll terraform that by hand. I'm just gonna fix this up, because we're also just gonna try and get this done today as well. Secret door as well, because of how hidden it looks. Absolutely. But I want it to kind of just be a general entrance, I think. Because my base is also meant to be a community base. It has a fair amount of the community farms at this point. Most of my bases, I don't think they've really shown the exterior of the columns. This one did for a little while, but now it's also covered again. Although I think this is just going to be the best reference I have. And it also got covered at some point. I think next season, I want to try and focus in a little more. I've been doing huge bases, which means giant projects, and trying to get into... I haven't had the time to get into a little more artistry of this. I've had some opportunity with the texturing and colors of this build, but I think next season I want to go really small and fully focus on just being more artistic about all this. And deliberate, colorful block choice. How do we want to do this? I need to... That goes all the way up to here. I need to remember how this is even done in the first place. Okay. And then something like that. How does this look on the other end, on the north end? Like that. Okay, okay, okay. So then at this point we go boop. Or actually I need to do this one more in then. Or one more out, not in. Oh, that is still needed in that spot. Okay. And boop. I don't even need that one there, actually. That one just needs to be right here, which means this right like that. Like that. That. Thank you. And then copy paste how this looks over to the other side and fix it up so it's actually correct. Did I do top part? Probably. We're gonna pretend that I did. And that is actually one taller than it should be, so I'm just gonna cut it off there. Yeah, that's fine. And then we do a boop, boop, boop. And we do... I've already done things I don't need to do. Because I jump the gun every time. If I can not place blocks in spots, I will absolutely do that to save myself the time and resource gathering. And then this is gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across, which means this will go like so. Like so. Beautiful. And that means this will go like so. These across as such. Honestly, I am low-key amazed I've actually gotten so much done today, and that we are managing to actually continue to get shit done. I got out of bed so late, it's not even funny. Usually I'll set myself up for success, and I'll have like my clothes out and ready for the shower. I can get myself up and ready for the day pretty quick. I took way too long this morning. I did not have clothes ready. Brain just did not want to get with a program and just get myself into a shower. And as I was about to, I had Dusty come over and cuddle with me, my cat. He does not come over and cuddle with me most mornings anymore. If he comes and cuddles with me, I will always take the opportunity to chill out for a little bit and let him come cuddle. And he just never left. So I ended up staying in bed an hour longer, double the time I usually would. And it took so damn long, and I've been low-key behind the rest of the day because of it, but it's fine. He's too freaking adorable for his own good. He's so adorable. But. Yeah, kitty cat. He never does anymore, but this morning he was just glued to my hip. Perhaps maybe because last night he got in a little nick of trouble. He was messing with the girls again, the other cats. And my brother threw him into my room, told me what was happening. At this point, I'm already in bed and I'm just reading on my phone. And so I'm like, okay, hand him here, grab your hands, give him to me. And I just pulled him under the covers and we cuddled for a second. Because that's usually the only way I can get him to cuddle with me. He has to not be perceived in order to cuddle. However, this morning, if it's morning time, he's far more willing to just come over and curl up next to me for a little bit. He'll come over, knead on my legs, knead on my chest, knead on whatever's available, and then he'll curl up at my feet or curl up at my side or my hip. And this morning, he just stayed there. He just hung out for ages. It was so freaking adorable. I think this should be perfect for the south entrance. This is all I really need to do, so we're just gonna make sure I have all of this together. And now we go move to player 1, or move position 1 to player, which should also encompass that little spot I want to do. And we go all the way down to here, and I need to make sure this encompasses all of it. And I need to get rid of this. What about Michael Jackson? What? What about him? Hopefully this encompasses all I needed to, or wait. Let's do this as a starting point and then work from there. Move to player. And then I need to lower it so it gets all of the stairs. Up. Make sure it goes under the floorboards. And that should... This is over 3, so I'm going to make sure it's over 3 on this side as well. Which, this one. What are you... Yeah, I don't know either. Billy Bob is his own enigma. I don't know what to tell you. He does his own thing. And as much as you question, there is a very rare chance that you'll actually get any answers. I'm actually going to move this one just over one more spot. That's not the right one. That's not the right one. There we go. And then to save myself the sanity of figuring out the correct Y position I need, we're just gonna stand at this little spot. Kind of like me, but very different. I'm just extremely curious and I ask a lot of questions. And here Billy Bob goes. Okay, what's blue and doesn't weigh much? The sky? I want to hear a better answer than that. Light blue. Blueberry's a good answer too. Hold on, I have a list of puns. Hold on. I have this ready to go. I'm definitely not stealing this from a Tumblr meme I found. Where is this? Where is this thing? I have saved too many of these recently. Why are writers always cold? They're surrounded by drafts. How many mystery writers does it take to change a light bulb? 2, one to change the bulb and the other to give it an unexpected twist at the end. What do writers have for breakfast? Cinnamon buns. I probably butchered that because of my stutter. Where do all the struggling writers live? Writer's block. What do writers suffer from each spring? Okay, I don't trust that I have a good spot there. I am setting the origin point back here. I don't trust myself. We're gonna put it right here. There we go. Origin point just tells me when I stand here, it goes there. Kind of. That's a very simplified version of it. Why did the birds attack the dog? He was purebred. I like that one. I like a good pun. South entrance. Set. And then save schematic. MegaBase, because I have too many. I'm not trying to overwrite heart. It was going to be called South Entrance. Saving schematic task created. I put West Entrance outside of this. Okay. And it started a schematic because I haven't had all the chunks loaded in that it needs. There we go. And now, just in case for my sanity, I want to see how bad this actually is. South entrance, materialist. We're going to ignore stone, deep slate, andesite, granite, dirt, diorite, gravel, copper, or all the ores. We don't need tough. We don't need grass blocks, dripstone, iron, dirt paths. We don't need a lot of this. We don't need any ores. Apparently there's a lot of infested stone. Don't need that. Don't need that. Nope, 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 nope. Deep slate shingles, where'd that come from? Why is there deep slate shingles? What was it picked? Oh, mine picked up some stuff from the builds upstairs. Yeah. There's no trapdoors in the design. Skulk veins, yeah, that checks. We're gonna get rid of all that. Yeah, definitely picked up some stuff from over there. Okay. Yep. Apparently there's some blocks of diamonds that got left in the schematic. We're gonna ignore those. We don't need that. We don't need skulk. Yep. Diamond ore. Yep. Yep. Okay. This is the materials we have to care about. What's it called when a snowman throws a tantrum? A meltdown. You wrote that twice. I had to really reload my Twitch because your stream disappeared, so I had to really reload it. That's a thing that happens with Twitch sometimes. It's just silly. If the stream stops working, it's probably that you just need to reload it for some reason or another. Now the question is, how much is this actually? Chances are I already have all this or can easily go get it. So that is 35 stacks of spruce planks. Let me grab a note card. I have one right in front of me. I have a bunch of new pens. I'm going to use one of them. It's like a Sharpie S-Note Duo. And there's like a little color pack of these. Adorable. Spruce plank. I'm gonna do 35x and then 39, which tells me 35 stacks and 39. And then stripped spruce log, which I just write as STSPLG. If I write L, I get confused apparently and grab a shit ton of logs when I need leaves. I've made that mistake. So I have to write LG now. That needs 18x and 14. And then we need dark oak stair. It's DOST. Although you can honestly write dark because there's no other dark woods. There's only really dark prismarine, so I guess it kind of needs that. It depends on what project you're working on. A lot of things can be really easily simplified. I have done this way too much because I like handwriting all of my material lists so I can easily go through and check them off and make sure that I got them. We need 5 stacks and 50. Torch, I'm just gonna handwrite 41. And then dark oak plank, PL. 33 of those, and then 12 SP dark oak log. 12. Beautiful. I'm gonna put a little checkbox next to each of these. just so I can have the joy of marking them off. There we go. I do have a green. I have a green I can use for that. Beautiful. Okay. And now to actually go on the server, because we've been on a copy of the world. Which isn't that much different, honestly. Because I haven't logged on since we logged off the other night, so this mess is still here, and I am not dealing with it. Not yet. I'm instead just gonna go out my window like an asshole. Bonk. Close the window like a good person. My storage isn't down here anymore. Jeez, that's how little I've been on the goddamn server. My storage isn't down there, and I can't go through that window either. Okay, so this is a large list of materials, but I can probably Container compatible. Ah, okay. Yeah, I know what that is. What that's telling me it can do is that. From one of the mods we have, I think it's connectable chains. Did it just... Well, I don't have to put away a lead anymore. Noted. Okay. Rope bridge. I don't think it'd work. It would be cool, but I don't think actual. You've given me ideas. You could... Okay. Forget the server for 2 seconds. You've given me an idea, and I now have to execute it. Because my mind went, no, that wouldn't work. Wait. It absolutely would. And I'm going to show you why and how. I'm gonna use... What can I use this? We're gonna use this area. Using this area as my tester. Or actually, this is perfect. There we go. I know exactly how you could actually do it. I love having a pattern recognition mine, and I hope y'all see where I'm going with this. I'm thinking you could reasonably do this. How far does this go is the other question I need to answer. This is Y72. 71, 72. This should be the correct one it lines up with. Not as far as I need, I don't think, but farther than you'd think. It does want me to have a middle one between these, though. It doesn't like hanging in the air. Is this the middle spot between them? It looks like it. I have a feeling it's an odd, isn't it? Or even. Hold on, we're gonna find out the middle point of these two. Oh, that one broke. And it's just gonna do that, okay. Both of them broke now, okay. 3, 3, 3. Oh, it is. I was absolutely correct the first time. Don't even worry about it. Apparently, I am absolutely right, and you shall never question me. Actually do. Please do. And then do another one over here. That doesn't quite give the look I need, though. I have a feeling it's going to try and do that no matter what. But if I can make it so it doesn't, that would be ideal. Can I? How do you get rid of this? Does it just disappear? Oh, there it goes. Yeah. The first one might have been better. What I'm thinking, because the rope goes through... Technically, you can just absolutely make a rope bridge out of it. Axiom, are you not working? No, you are not. Thank you. I kind of need you sometimes, Axiom. You're here for a reason. And I think I need to go down a little further than I want to for this. That's not right. And then you could probably hide it like this. Maybe, we're gonna do this. To hide it. Because I can't quite hide that there are trapdoors here. Or hide that there are fences here, but at least we can pretend there isn't. I love having a brain that works heavily off of pattern recognition. Genuinely, actually. Because you said a rope bridge and my brain went, no, wait, actually, you remember that old trick? Because this is an old trick, technically. You used to do this with chickens underground. What am I stuck on? Am I stuck on the rope itself? It actually does act as a bridge, but you can still build through it. Okay. It is a genuine barrier. That's about how I did on each side, I think. There we go. Rope bridge. Just as deadly. Okay, that almost genuinely worked. It kind of works a little bit if you ignore some of the things. Rope bridge. This would probably look better if you just made it a genuine spot in the middle so you could actually properly cover that there's a fence there and made the fence a full support. But rope bridge. What I tried to do weeks ago and I just remembered it now. Yeah. Rope bridge. Anyway, schematics. I need to grab materials. Brain went in different direction. I can always count on ADHD to give me distracted shenanigans, and it did give me back the lead. I just didn't pick it up. Why do I have 2 stairs? Why do I have a stair? Actually, I know why. Never mind. I got stuck in bedrock, and I thought a stair would help me get out because we have a sit mod. So I thought if I stood over here where I was stuck in the bedrock and then sat on the stair, it'd get me out of the block. It didn't. Thankfully, I was able to fly out of it, but I was just genuinely stuck in the bedrock. We need an empty backpack for 35 stacks. 1, 2, 3, 4. That'll give us 16. 1, 2, 3, 4 will give us another 16, which makes 32 now. And we're gonna grab 1, 2, 3 more after that, which makes our 35, and then we're gonna take a few from this to give us our 39. And now I can mark that off of my list. And then strip spruce log, 18 stacks and 14. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh wait, 18 stacks. Ooh. That's gonna be a fun one. I think we can manage it, but let's see how many I have. A full inventory would be at 18 stacks. I only have 8. Plus a little bit in here. But... Actually, while I'm at it, let's just make sure I'm gonna turn all of these very slowly, because that's the only option we have, into strip spruce logs. Very slowly. Because this is the fastest way we have to do this. So that gives me half of what I need. I do have a ridiculous amount of spruce trees out this way. And someone's cleaned out most of the spruce trees without replanting them. That's great. That is the one condition of the farm. Replant what you take. That is all I ask. Or actually, there's a second thing. Replant what you take and keep the farm clean, aka After you're done, clean out the chests. Okay, let's get this going. I'm gonna do these interchangeably so they're not gonna crowd so much, and I don't have to deal with as many leaves. And hopefully, as I'm planting these, the first ones will start to grow, and so on and so forth, until all of them have grown. Hopefully. Also, I really don't know who put a bunch of crafting tables there. That's been here almost since I made this farm, and it's just been chilling there. I don't know who's done that, but it's silly and cute. I like it. And bonkus. Hopefully this does the trick. And should also semi-restock this place. Excuse me. Thank you. So this is, if you haven't seen a tree farm before, this is a semi-automatic farm. AKA, you plant the trees in these various spots. You can just do them every one. I'm doing them every other one, so I don't gotta deal with leaves. And then when you chop them down, we do have a tree chop mod. But when you chop them down, then all the stuff goes into the water stream down into 2 little hoppers I have down there. And gets collected into a chest for me, so I don't have to run around grabbing all of it myself and wasting inventory over it. I can just plant the damn things. So it saves just a wee bit of time. And there's a zombie chilling out over there, because of course there is. And I still have tea. I put it off to the side and forgot about it. Nummy. Bum, 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 bum. Hello, sir. Bye, sir. Also, fair warning when making this, mobs love it. They'll just get stuck down there for ages, especially if a zombie gets... zombies can occasionally hold items, and I think skeletons as well. And so sometimes they just love picking up a few saplings and then getting stuck down there. So do creepers. There we go. And there's already some trees growing. Fantastic. Also, you could probably space this out way more, so it's a lot better. This is just the spacing I went with when I was mining out this area. I think ideally, if you're doing like smaller trees, you could probably do this in 1 every 3 would probably be best, or 1 every 2. Probably 1 every 3 would be best, especially if you're doing oak trees and you're worried about the various oaks getting mixed up. I did not need to put these here. I just ended up doing this entire place in spruce, but it's fine. Hi, creeper. No. Yeah, what did I say? Mobs love this place. And that's all of the saplings. There we go, they're starting to grow. Good, 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 good. Whoop. Actually, let's see how many are in the farm in the first place. Not as much as I need. Not nearly as much. I still need like another 6 stacks. So that's great. And Wally's slowly moving down. Where's the creeper? Thank you, sir. Actually gonna pop into my offhand. This is not amalgamation. I do not need to keep my offhand open. It is open merely because I don't feel like grabbing totems and I have not had a need for it this season. I got better ways to get emeralds than a raid farm. Because I could make an overpowered raid farm, but I can also just trade an absurd amount of iron, which is what I've gone for this season. It should be enough. Spruce wood now. Pretty please? Yep. And that should leave me with a little bit extra. And I'm definitely gonna come back here when we do the east one tomorrow. And we're almost an hour in, so we're doing pretty good as far as progress goes. Question is, how fast can I actually build this thing? Actually, I should just grab straight from... Okay, that was the last one, so never mind. There we go. So now all of those will grow, which I can come back to later. Oh yeah, and I don't think I mentioned it as much. I think I briefly mentioned it last time. I changed all of this out to grass, and I also continued the paths all the way out here. Yeah, bloop. Right into the window. And then we change another 9 stacks into strip logs. Very slowly. Because it takes forever. There we go. I can't put that in this backpack because it's completely full. That's 18, and then I need 14 on top of that, which we should already have from here. 14. And then actually I can do and it'll pull everything from my inventory. Now we need 5 stacks and 50 dark oak strip logs, which should be fairly easy. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Move all of this accordingly. 5, and we'll do 6 for good measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then cut this down to 50. And now strip. Yep. Perfect. Bonk. And then I need a whopping 41 torches, which I may or may not have. Yep. This is what happens when you've been in the season so long. We're slowly working towards the end of it, but... And that's why we're here. So I can start working towards the end of it. We need 33 dark oak planks. Well, I'll be. And... another... That was not stripped dark oak log, that was dark oak stair. I only need 12 stripped dark oak log. Yeah. Okay. That is the problem with me writing in contractions consistently. You here, and then you here, and then... I gotta take this and turn it straight into stairs, which gives me 4 stacks. I need 5 and 50, so we're gonna take a little more of this. Do I have any stairs pre-existing? Not a lot. I'd rather just leave those. I'm gonna do that, so that gets me another 2. Put that back. And then, perfect. Now, I have everything I need for this. And I'm not gonna use Big Ham today. We're just gonna stick with... Do I need literally all of this? I'm gonna stick with the sword to fuck you. Because I'll probably need... I definitely need pickaxe and shovel because of digging. And then I'm gonna need the axe for the wood and... The axe is a weapon, hold on. Let's do this then. Hydrate, yes I will. Nummy. And now there's apparently a pillager somewhere over here. Hi, buddy. If you don't mind me, I'm just gonna yoink. Did that get you? Almost. Is that your hitbox? Yep, that is definitely your hitbox. Boop. Barely nicked him. My arrow just caught on his toenail. And I caught on the toenail of that heart. And then we're gonna ignore all the villagers in my compass. And we're gonna stand right here. Good thing I did trust the schematic. I was gonna place that one forward. And we're gonna load schematic. MegaBase, south entrance, load. And now it tells me to delete all of that, but we're not gonna go from bottom to top. We're gonna go top to bottom. Because that's gonna make this so much easier on me, and I can use my west entrance now. Which is marginally faster. And also the only one that's actually close to the surface. I have like I'm gonna have like 4 different heights for the entrance. Also, yeah, that's why it had a bunch of random materials, and I'm probably gonna end up with extra stripped because of that. I forgot I want to place a temple there. Okay, Blahaj religion next week. I said I'd do it last season. I didn't. It's time to do it. It is time. And we're gonna switch around this mode to... I think I need to page all above. And then move it to all below. Yeah, I forgot. I forget a lot. Oh, I need all above layer. That's what I need. I need all above. And then we need to slowly move it all the way up here. Which is another like 20 blocks. There we go. So we're going to move it down just a little bit to 110, which should be pretty doable. And I should only need planks and logs at this point. Actually, let me make myself a happy camper here. And instead of taking from this one, I take from this one. So I can sooner get rid of BS. Thankfully, why is there a random rabbit? Why is there rabbit hide over here? I don't know why that suddenly had an accent, but it did. Rabbit. Why is there suddenly a rabbit hide over here? Sounded ridiculous even to me. That's not a that's not a high standard. Did I not do those? Is that not in the schematic? Oh no, it's not low enough. Okay. We add all of these. My cat is snoring next to me, but it is very adorable. He snores all of the time. He is very adorable. Schematics are a very silly thing. So this is going to be very interesting to have to do. Because they insist one way or another. Because theoretically, yeah, this should be really easy, right? But logs are directional. So I kind of mucked myself up in my choice of block for this. And it's not the correct one I wanted. There we go. So I screwed myself over with that. And I now must suffer for designing my entire base around stripped spruce logs. And I'm not doing this next season. I would rather have a really random, sporadic list of blocks and make it look really pretty than what I have cursed myself with this season. At least it's an easy palette to collect for, but jeez. Do I hate it sometimes. Math. Yes. My depth perception is so off because for some reason, I thought that this block was one lower, and it wasn't the same block that I'm currently standing on. My eyes are something else. My brain is something else. He was studied and found to have ADHD. Which, after talking to everybody about it, surprised no one, not even myself. Because afterwards, like, yeah, okay, yeah, I should have known. That should have been the main culprit. Somehow it wasn't. Suddenly my life feels like a Scooby-Doo episode. But now I know. It was the ADHD all along. And now I get to spend the rest of my life going, oh shit, that one moment from that one thing was just ADHD. And that is not a normal human thing. That is an ADHD thing. Thank you, KofiBot. There are two things I can count on. My chatbots and ADHD. And this is the point where I realize I am already tired. It is a whopping 7 PM. I am already tired. And it's not going to get any better. The commentary will only get worse as we progress. Well, let me place this as a... No. I could have hoped. I could have hoped. I tried to hope. It didn't let me. And place it a block. It will let me do this one, though. That is good. There are odds and ends about the weird-ass placement of this. There are good sides and downsides. Unfortunately, I have a type of schematic. I have made such a build that I mostly have the downsides of it. Because not only have I decided, oh yeah, I'm gonna do stripped log columns throughout my entire build, but I also did a crosshatch log pattern. So it's so much fun. I have to place that by hand. Which sounds silly, because how else would you place it? A lot of this I can get away with placing really fast because of Lightmatica. The logs? Hell no. I am not allowed. Shortcuts? Never heard of her. I actually remember how I designed this thing. That'd be great. Yeah, but this is also why I have schematics, is because I can never remember the simplest details of what I have built. And in the past, before using schematics full time, I would have to go back and forth constantly to check the little details of anything and everything I've ever built. And my time lapses were downright horrible, so most of my builds had to be completely off the cuff, even if I designed them in creative first. And it is nighttime, so I sleep. And chugga water. No, not chugga water. This is very strange water. Chugga tea. Chugga some of the good gossip. Unfortunately, I do not have good gossip. I've never been interested in gossip or anything like even remotely close to it. Most internet conversations, whatever is popular right now, whatever celebrity drama is going on, never heard of it. You could ask me about any popular show that is current right now, and I guarantee you I probably haven't heard of the damn thing. I just wanted to scratch my nose, man. It's allergy season. Give me a break. That wasn't even creeping. That was broad daylight stalking. Stars, okay. That's... That's sad. I wasn't looking at the screen. I just took the moment to have a nice long blink instead of gazing angrily at my screen for the challenge I have set myself this week. That shall once again test my sanity, and I will end up on the other side, questioning my decisions, but having been successful regardless. Potentially. We will see. Because 8 hours is a heck of a time to get this done in. And we are an hour in. We're only 50 minutes past the last time I mentioned the time. So I could be completely underestimating time again. Or I could absolutely realize how big of a project this is. However, I strongly believe that building this at the same time as I'm excavating this will seriously save my time. I spend a huge amount of time trying to get this done, or trying to deal with the columns. So I'm thinking, even though using the pickaxe takes longer, there is very little prep work with this entrance. The other entrances have had a lot of prep work that went in beforehand. The west entrance, I terraformed that entire area first, and I had to drain not only the river there, but the water cave that was there at the immediate start of it. And in order to make the first entrance in the first place, I terraformed that entire mountain. And then apparently I wasn't done, so after I made the west entrance, I terraformed the entire mountainside again. Because apparently, I really wanted to mine on this Minecraft server. The children yearn for the mines. And I took that way too literally. Oh, come on. You suck. Thank you. And I'm probably gonna miss that specific block a lot. Because it's very easy to miss. Are you kidding me? Just let me place it normally. I wish Lightmatica was a lot better about how it placed logs and how it let you place logs, but it just ain't. Also, I do not care about the stone. I have 20,000 stone and way more dirt from everything I've been terraforming. So, I do not care. We are going to move on to the best of our ability. Honestly, with how I'm going about this thing, I could probably... I'm trying to think of the most optimal way to do this. I found a really good way to do mine this out with my destructor hammer when we were doing the west entrance. So perhaps, maybe, I could go back and forth between destructor hammer and building. I hesitate to say. Maybe that is a way to do this. Maybe. Because there are absolutely some things that are easier with everything excavated first, but it's the columns that suck the most. The columns will just wreck my day if I'm not careful. And I don't feel like noob piling all the way up. Every single one, but that technically is fat. I don't know. I do think a good combo would be better than what I'm currently doing, though. Although the blocks are so annoying. I'm not, they're so freaking annoying, I'm not gonna lie. I don't care about them. That doesn't mean they're not annoying me. I don't care about keeping them, I think is more accurate. I care about keeping them, so they are being annoying. And hopefully there ain't too much dirt, so I don't have to do too much about this. Although I mine so fast, a lot of my time with the destructor hammer is also spent fixing things that I didn't mean to break. So it may genuinely be faster to just carefully mine out with the pickaxe. We'll see. Do I have? Yes, I do have that on. And thankfully, I'm at the good height now, but I can go about this. Maybe if I did this in twos, instead of one layer by one layer by one layer, it'd be better. We are at a point I now need to... Let's just... I'm not going to be able to do as much of that as I want to. Let's grab this, and this, and this, and that. Because we don't need the strip dark logs until we get to the very bottom. And I do actually want a little bit of that. Is there any more? Just a few more. Pretty please, thank you. I think that's all I'm gonna get. Can I have dirt? That's not dirt, thank you. I don't care. Dirt is still fine. It does the same exact job. Yeah, where did I threw the stairs over there? Thank you. I'm not losing out on 50 stairs. I think I might do the... Actually, hold on. I'm gonna better organize my inventory. We're gonna do the stairs as the very last thing. Because they're gonna be very annoying to place as we're going down. And I can place those ridiculously fast at the very end if I'm sprinting while walking forward. So that will be the last thing to go in. Torches are also annoying when it comes to the placement of them. And also, we're getting through enough of this that I can throw all of this right there. Now let me... And then I can go... Yoink. And then I can walk up and grab all that, and then perfect. My nose is still being annoying, and I think YouTube Music isn't letting me play my Minecraft parodies. Thank you. There's not even a Minecraft parody, it just... I think that is an original. It just happens to be in the engine of Minecraft. Or as a Minecraft fandom song. Is it fan? I don't know. We're gonna go with medium of Minecraft, because that seems most accurate. I don't need all of this in my inventory, that was part of what I was supposed to do. Okay. And my nose... Fill inventory with materials. So I don't gotta worry about picking up any of this. I have to still very carefully mine. We literally have to get 100 and down. Cause my base is at, or over 120 blocks-ish down. My base is all the way at, like, I think the floor's at -6 or something. A little bit lower than 0. It's not quite 10 below. But it's just slightly lower than 0. And the peak of the meadow is about 120. So you see where the problem herein lies. At 1, me basing underneath the mountain. 2, that I decided I wanted an entrance in every direction to my base. Underneath the mountain. Because at any point I could have decided, no, that's not something I really need. I could still decide right here, right now, that's not something I really need. Am I gonna make that decision? No! Because I'm insane, and continue to choose to do this anyway. Also, side note, this is actually far better than the weird-ass thing I was doing prior. I am still tempted to just go full mining instead. Because I do struggle with split tasking at times. I kinda just want to full focus on mining this out. But it's gonna make the columns so frickin' annoying. I think everything but the spruce wood. Spruce wood is the #1 annoyance of all of this. The columns are very annoying to place while I'm mining. The spruce wood is very easy to place while I'm mining. So we're gonna switch out for purely spruce and continue on. I'm gonna make sure I do have toggle place on. And we're just gonna continue on and I'm only gonna be placing that. Bloop, bloop. And hopefully I can get this done in a reasonable amount of time and be able to sit down and read the night away, plan tomorrow, figure out... Actually, I know what we're doing for tomorrow's stream. That is not an issue at all. What do I need to do tomorrow? That's a good question. I need to get VODs up. There's Sunday's VOD and yesterday's VOD that need to go up. There's... I'm not starting editing tomorrow, so technically the only other thing is the asset. The asset I've been working on for a minute. And I was actually going to be posted a while ago, but I just didn't like how it looked out. And at this point, I'm fully redesigning the entire thing. I sat down today and redesigned the floor plan, and I'm going to continue that out tomorrow. Should probably fill this in as well. Although technically this one's really easy to place and I could wait till later, but I will just place it now. Give me that back. Thank you. I think that is really it. I'm not sure what else I want to do on this season as we continue going on. I do plan on trying to split this, so once a week we'll be working on... One week we'll work on Passion SMP, and then the next week we'll be probably focusing on Amalgamation, whether I'm streaming it or not. I do have a few projects that I'm probably going to end up recording over streaming that I would like to enact if they are enacted. Hey, boo. I gotta talk to some people first about that, but before I do that I want to finish the multiplayer update, aka the current version of the mods that I'm playing with Penguin. I'm just gonna set it to all. Hold on. All. Thank you. If I... Do I want the Destructor Hammer? Yes and no. I don't want to deal with having to replace stuff is the only thing. So, begrudgingly, I'm going to stick to purely the pickaxe. And no, I'm not picking up the ore either. I have too much. I will never need ores ever again in this SMP. Boop. Wait, I don't... It's weird, like, I feel like I have a lot of time to do things every day, and then when I actually get to do a thing, I feel like I have no time at all. So it's a very fun conundrum I am stuck in. The manor, Gothic Manor, I think I'm trying to make this like a big enough and decorated enough thing. It's not gonna necessarily be a survival base, it's gonna be just a fully build thing. But I want to see if I can get a bunch of PSMP members to play hide and seek in it, because I think that'd be interesting. Might just pop it in like a dark forest super flat world or something. And then make a barrier block barrier around it. We can do that. If I do a like actual hide and seek thing with them, I might design like a little courtyard around it. That'd be fun. I wanna eventually be like doing full maps and such. That is not gonna be a near thing. I'd love to one day make a proper adventure map for Amalgamation. That is something I thought of and tried doing in the past, and it never really clicked on anything. I did have the idea for like a deep dark themed manor that I think I did start doing, but it was early into me knowing how to use world edit. I just didn't. I did one stream of it where we purely made like an island in the sky, and then I never continued it. What are they? What's going on? Oh, it's probably the cave over here. Yeah. Where did you come from? Where did you come from, you silly goose? Hey, goofy boys. That's silly. I think somewhere I still have the idea and sketches laid out. I'm pretty sure I know exactly where it is actually for the amalgamation manor thing. I'll have to refine that and bring it into my new notebooks. Because that would genuinely be a cool thing to enact on after the multiplayer update. And then that's something I could have preloaded with amalgamation from here on too. I do want to do, eventually, we have at the top of the list, excuse me, sir. I'm trying to promote my stuff. When we hit 10 subscribers on Twitch, I will do a joke amalgamation or a horror amalgamation update. Just because it'd be a silly thing. And technically, amalgamation did start as a horror mod pack, way back when I started it. Be funny to go back to. At least briefly. It'd probably be whatever version it's on, I'll add like a .1 to it. The only reason... I have like a weird filing iteration when it comes to amalgamation. The Amalgamation 1 was a very short series of just like my favorite mods, which is why it's called Amalgamation. 1.2 was very short. I did only like an episode or two on it, and it was when I started moving away from horror mods and just doing like a genuine mod pack. And as my intro to it said, I removed all the horror mods except Herobrine. He is integral to the plot. And that is still my favorite line from the entire video. And my favorite scene to, it was also my favorite scene to record in B-roll, because I filmed that scene in the Nullscape, which is a end biome? Or like an end biome mod? I think is the best way to put it. It's a mod that changes the end biomes and adds more end biomes with vanilla blocks, and I adore it. I would like to add that to Passion SMP at some point, even though people might hate it. I'd have to run it by people and be very explicit about what you're getting into, what they're getting into if they do want to add that. It'd be cool to add though, because it is such a genuinely cool thing to go through. It is. I love it. I adore it. And the way the Herobrine mod I had works is you kind of have to wait for him to appear. You kind of have a summon for him, but he doesn't usually sit around long enough that I could get any B-roll. So I had to genuinely sit there in the game for a few minutes and wait for it to spawn in behind me, and then make sure I didn't turn around and look at him, and then just record the B-roll as fast as I could. It was really fun. I adored it, and doing that B-roll has also given me one of my favorite screenshots ever. And I think I even installed shaders into that version of Amalgamation purely for that screenshot as well. I should still have it on my computer. Hold on. Let's add an image here. I should still have it. I'm pretty sure I know where the screenshot is. Java screens. It is not in this one, so I know where it is then. Assumingly. Brain went blank. There we go. This. Absolutely gorgeous, and I love it so much. This is a Nullscape biome. I don't remember what the name of it is, And then I can't remember which Vibrant Visuals this was. I think it might have just been BSL, which is a very common one. You'll find it on most versions and versions of the game and mod packs loaders. And then it's just a normal ancient city in the background. It's fucking fantastic. I love it. Oh, and there is, you can barely see it. There's a little box down there. Let me put this like right next to my ear so you can see it right there. That is from Repurposed Structures, and it's just an end dungeon. Like one of the normal Minecraft dungeons. I adore it so much. On the end stone, the little end portal, gateway. I think it's gateway. I always call them the pills. And then the gateway looks different because I had Young's End Overhaul, which is absolutely fantastic. If you haven't played it, go play with it. Even if it's just like a non-modded, if that's the only thing you add to your world. If there's one mod you add to the your world, add Young's End Overhaul. And just go experience it. You don't even have to be in survival. Literally, just /locate your stronghold. Open the portal and go experience it, because it's fantastic. I love it. I won't say anything more than that. I'll try not to anyhow. It is a fantastic experience if you've never had before. That means I need the one there. Do I have everything I need to place around? No. And I did place that there. Okay. We're only down to 96. It's been a half hour. So we're gonna see how much I can actually get done. I think I'm gonna have to push back the asset and I'll see if I can even get it done this week. I might switch it over to just doing... I'll do another one of the magic houses instead of the manor, because the manor's gonna take me some time. I can do most of it by hand, or most of it with Axiom, but then I do want to do interiors for it. So that's gonna take the longest. That's something I do by hand. So I'll probably switch over to doing a starter instead. Because it is currently Tuesday. I don't know. I'm probably going to need to also play catch-up Wednesday. Thursday, I start editing. Thursday, I start editing and putting this video together. And I want to try out something. And that's going to take me a little time. I should be easily prepared for it, but we'll see how it all plays out. Why do I hear baby child? Or a zombie of some sort? It's over this way. Probably from this cave. That is an interesting... Oh, it's from here. Probably. Nope, I don't see it. Oh, it's from right there. Okay. I will see you in a second, my friend. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna need to play catch-up tomorrow. Hi, buddy. Hey, Bunkus. Hey, Bunkus, thank you. Is that... Oh, no, that's the random blocks. Okay, I don't care about it. I'm not gonna place a random grass block for the schematic to be happy with me. I'm gonna try and hard stop us in about 20 minutes here. So I can make sure I get my day ended at a good time. So I can get tomorrow done even better than I did today. I did not have a good start today, but hey, I got shit done regardless. So I'm not gonna be too upset about it. I had to, for the manor, it started as ages ago. I made this giant freaking ridiculous floor plan. And I mentioned I had to actually rework the floor plan today because there was no sense to it. And I couldn't make a decisive pattern, and it doesn't... I want it to be like a Gothic manor because it kind of strikes me as that, the floor plan. But it's too chaotic to actually do anything with, and it's all one floor as well, which doesn't help the situation. So, I ended up reworking the entire floor plan. I took a little... You know what, you can have a sneak peek of this. I have a screenshot. With Axiom, you can annotate real time inside of the game. And so I have this screenshot from taking the really old floor plan and then dialing it back a lot into the bare basics of what I was doing there and making it something sensible. And I have now turned this into a basis floor plan, aka I have literally that, but turned into wool blocks. And a few idealizations here or there, like, oh, I need it to be this tall, because I want it to feel not giant, but definitely intimidating or foreboding. So it's about going to be like 6 blocks tall per floor, something like that. I might do a little bit taller, just so I could do some borders between the floors, and have a little more freedom with the ceiling. Although it depends on what I do for everything, because my brain's already like, oh, I could do this, this, and this. If I really like the floors on the second floor, if I keep everything the exact same, and I don't do any tile, which is a hard press, I could get away, depending on what I'm doing for the ceiling, do a crown mold. Why is there 1 block missing there? Okay. I will have to fix that later. Thankfully, I do have an excess of the stripped logs. Thank you, Ko-fi bot. Again, the 2 things I can rely on, ADHD and Ko-fi bot. My stream bot. Nightbot coming in to check on me every, like, what, 15, 20 minutes? Something like that. Yeah, both of these are messed up. I don't know why that is. It is, though. So I will do with it the best I can. Also, geez, I'm running low on food and such. Time? Another 15. Let me run up here where there's not a bunch of blocks to fill up my inventory. Refill that. You know I'm not on the server a lot when I still have a ridiculous amount of rockets and food. But I have a feeling tomorrow is just gonna be a day... I'm gonna throw this out, I don't need this. It's just gonna be a day of me hacking away at this as much as I can. I should have the entire afternoon for it. Or at least the majority of the afternoon. Is there anything else? I can put aside the afternoon for this. I'm pretty sure I can manage that. There's not much else pressing that I need to get done. Off the top of my head, I might wake up tomorrow and realize, oh, I need to go do this, this, and this thing. It's just a Wednesday, though. It's probably fine. Thursday's when I hit the library. That's gonna mess up my afternoon. But I might be able to actually push that towards morning. I might just push that towards morning so I can have the afternoon. We will see. At this point, I'm starting to get my schedule really under handle. I think I've mentioned before with my ADHD meds, they're short release, and I'm in the process of switching over to long release. But I do gotta finish off these first. So... I have like a 3 p.m. drop where I completely lose any focus and I'm very easily distracted. But thankfully what seems to work is taking a short break about 2:30 and get myself a little treat. So basically basically jingle the keys in front of my dopamine. And with my little treat, I can continue or start on whatever the hell I need to do. And I think this is the day one of me, like, officially properly doing this. I was supposed to start implementing this yesterday. It didn't work because of the 3 p.m. drop. And I know it's at 3 p.m. because I will always look up shortly after 3 p.m. and realize I've been distracted for however long. And I will start losing steam just about that time. Even if I know I just took a break, and I'm supposed to work for however much longer, it's always 3 p.m. that I lose steam. But today I had a little treat. My local bulk store had some gulab jamun. It's basic, in short, TLDR, Indian fried dough in a sweet sauce, and I love it. And my local bulk had this in the freezer section for a while, and I've been eyeing it for a good minute, and it dropped to like $7 odd. So I'm like, let's get it. Just had to pop it in the microwave. It's not the same as like nice fresh gulab. It's not the same as fresh gulab, but it's still delicious. And it was like a pack of 12. Me and my nephew, he had never had them before because he's like 5. He's never had them before. He wanted to try them out with me. And because they're really similar. I'm not gonna be I'm trying not to be American about this. They're similar to Cinnabons for me, and it's just kind of like a really syrupy cake. Reminds me of people like when you're icing cakes together, like professional icers will add a little sweet syrup between them. It reminds me of that. It reminds me a lot of like little cake bombs, kinda. And so, of course, he downed several of them. I let him have 3, because these are not small little bite-sized things. They're like an inch diameter. They're like the size of a avocado pit. Actually, a little bigger than an avocado pit. It depends on the avocado pit you get. Hold on, I need a better... It's bigger than a quarter. What's a good thing that's... Lime. It's about the size of a lime. Limes don't get too big, usually. I think that's a good enough estimation. So I let him have 3 of them, and I had 3. And he downed those. I gave him 1 to start with, cut it up for him, he's munching away at him. It's like, he's finished, and when he's done with food, he'll usually sit around, look around for a minute, and go, all done. I'm all done. And then he'll go up and go back to whatever he was doing. And today, with the gulab, he's kind of sitting around, he's looking at it. And like, do you want another one, buddy? He's like, yeah. Get him another one, cut it up for him, same process. He's staring at it. It's like, you can have 1 more. And I put it on his plate, and he goes to poke it with a fork. I'm like, dude, are you sure you don't want me to cut it out for you? He's like, yeah. And just stabbed it with a fork, started eating it. Granted, that was kind of how I was eating it, but I had chopsticks. It was still absolutely adorable. As far as my family goes, my family's pretty good about... We're not heavy, picky eaters. But they're not extremely ethnic eaters, too. I think as far as my family goes, my immediate family... And my extended family, too, honestly. I'm probably the person who eats the most, non-white American food. Because we eat like a fair amount of Asian and Mexican in this house, because that's been... what's the appropriate words that doesn't sound hella white? My local area has a lot of small business Asian and Mexican restaurants, so we've kind of grown up in that culture a little bit. Or at least me and my siblings have. Me and my siblings are a lot more open to trying out that different kind of stuff than my parents are. But I'm just about willing to try anything, honestly. One of my brothers has been a little more adventurous, and he's had most types of meats because of hunting buddies. Or like friends and coworkers who do hunting, so he'll get to try out game and such. I've been able to try out bear because of him. And I want deer jerky again. Deer jerky is so good. I want deer jerky again. It is delicious. But apparently I'm the only one that really eats Indian, which is funny, considering, I'm picky about my spice. And that's why Asian food and a little bit of Indian, I'm hit or miss with Indian sometimes, but that could just be the places I've gone to. I'm very picky about my spice. A lot of American, and I feel like a fair amount of Americanized Mexican spice goes purely for the feeling of it and the actual, I can't remember the chemical name, but the actual chemical that causes your mouth to go in pain and everything. Capsaicin, I think. Goes for pure capsaicin. I like spice when it's flavor. When the spice is just an after effect of the flavor. If the flavor is good enough, I do not care about the spice level. I don't care if it's a ghost pepper. If you've made a goddamn delicious tomato soup that just happens to have ghost peppers, I'm gonna eat the tomato soup. I don't care. I have like a genuine hatred of the feeling of my mouth tingling from the spice. This is not like an allergic reaction. It's just flat out, I hate the feeling. I absolutely despise it. Probably why I don't like pineapple either. Because I know I'm not allergic to pineapple, I just don't like that feeling in my mouth. I don't. But this has also made me incredibly picky when it comes to spice, because a lot of spice you'll get from most things are purely just for the capsaicin. And so I have to add flavor to it, or just, I won't eat it, it's not worth it for me. You gotta make it worth me dealing with the sensory nightmare that is spiciness. I'm slowly getting through all of that. Out of my inventory, please, so I can grab the last of this. Thank you. I got down... We're at 78. I'm gonna push us to 75, and then we'll call it there for the day. But yeah, to wrap this up, I... apparently the most adventurous out of my family when it comes to food. I do not care too much. I'll eat just about anything, and I'm willing to try most food combos. Except for the really common ones, for some reason. Because I'm not a fan of a few common ingredients. I don't like peppers. This is not the spice level. They just feel like plastic in my mouth, and I cannot eat a pepper without thinking about the plastic pepper children toys. And that is the #1 reason I don't like peppers. Even cooked, it's just like chewing on plastic. I don't like it. Plus, the capsaicin issue, the sensory nightmare of capsaicin for me. No, thank you. Which actually bars me from a fair amount of Mexican food, unfortunately. So, it sadly just leaves me with, like, quesadillas. It leaves me with quesadillas, and that's about it. There's not a lot of Mexican food I really like, unfortunately. I'm not sure if it is Mexican. I know we barely have this recipe. We have this typed out, and it's like a... You suck. I have the exact amount of planks. You suck. Thank you for actually hitting it. Thank you. Okay, I will deal with that tomorrow. I need to find more Mexican food I actually like. Oh yeah, right. We have, like, I'm not even sure if it's Mexican. We have a really old rice recipe, and this is just a cheesy... It's not Is it Gorzo? It's not Gorzo. I don't think. But it's a cheesy... It's like a sour cream rice bake. Cheesy sour cream rice bake. I don't know how to describe it other than that. It's a very creamy rice with a bunch of cheese on top, and you bake it for a little while, and it's so freaking good. I feel like that alone holds the structures of most of my childhood memories. It's so good. I need to convince my mom to find a meal that works with it, so she can make it again. I just want some of it. It might be gorgeous. I don't know if it's I don't know. So we try to look this thing up. We can't find it. As far as I remember. I think something else pops up when you try and look up the name we have for it. I have no idea what it is, but it is delicious. Even if I look up cheesy Mexican rice, it might pop up, but I don't know. Maybe. We're about at the end of the line here, so let me clean out these last few blocks. And I'm gonna stay online to let these despawn so Billy Bob doesn't have a heyday the next time he logs on. I'm gonna see if I can find this real quick. Hold on. Can I find this? Mexican cheesy sour cream rice? That looks like it. Hold on. Apparently, if you look up Mexican cheesy sour cream rice, you get the thing I'm talking about. These are very white versions of it. But why are they adding corn? But it's always the corn. It always is. I don't want your frickin'... Is there not a name for this? Name. What is this called? Is it this? What is this? What rabbit hole have I gone down? I don't know. I don't know. Poblano rice casserole? That's the only thing I can really get. Otherwise, this is always called cheesy sour cream rice. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway. I need to check this real quick. Yeah, I need to get that. Okay. That'll be it. Thank you all for joining me. I'll see you in the next one. Live notifications always go out on Discord and the various social medias I have mostly post builds or clips from the videos or the streams. Videos go up on the second channel. This VOD will be up as well on the second channel in the next several days here. I think this one's going to end up going up Thursday, Friday, something like that. If I remember the delay correctly, we're a few days off. I think, with all that said, that'll be it. Thank you all for joining me. I'll see you